Let's roll it.
All right, we're recording. It's weird being back on the podcast because it feels like we haven't done this for so long, but we literally talk to each other like 15, 25 times a day. So, uh,
On
but we're back.
yeah. The I was just thinking about the so many renditions of the podcast that we've had, dude.
I know
Thinking back
there's
to
been, and I mean, we're going for another name change too. And there's been a million name changes. There's been different styles of
cold brew.
hot takes,
Dude,
cold brews,
dude, I was thinking about the cold brew podcast. It seemed like nothing. It was nothing. But dude, the amount of free cold brews we got was kind of crazy.
I know. That was a fun time. Those were good days. And I think like the funny thing about coming back to the podcast and what always draws us back to doing it is probably like around like we have so many good conversations throughout the day of all these different things. It's like, man, we should just record an hour of them. And it's interesting because like, like everyone says that and they're like, oh, this could be a podcast. But really like when I watch like things like YouTube, half the stuff is just people doing stuff like that you would like 10 years ago have never thought anyone would want to watch. Like I watched this one YouTube channel that is like, I think they're on episode 100 of building the same house. And it's literally just like, you're kind of like on the job site with them, essentially. Like they're explaining what they're doing and like showing you different stuff and why they're doing stuff. But a lot of it's just like the interaction between the employees and whatnot. And like, even like vlogs, like most people are like, man, you would never just want to see the daily life of someone. But I think people think that like behind the scenes stuff is interesting. And I certainly do, like, like watching.
Why do you think that is though? Why do you think like why are people so interested in like the streaming era of shit? Like I would have never thought someone would watch someone play video games, but it seems like people love watching people's lives.
It's almost hard now too with to watch something that's very scripted or like very produced. Like
Yeah.
Eliza will watch like HGTV homes stuff where they're like doing renovations, but it's so cut and edited. It's like
Yeah.
it's almost like too corny to watch because of the fact that I've watched all these like RR builders and I've watched the Perkins brothers and like those guys, and you watch these and like you get to know the people way better and it just feels way less Hollywood and fake. And so I think there's like some aspect of like it feels real.
Yeah.
And so people appreciate the authenticity. And that's where I think like the best vloggers on YouTube, like they come off as like their real personality and they don't fake it for the camera and they don't like, like obviously YouTubers, they fabricate situations and fake them. But a lot of people like get mad at people now for doing that. And so I think like it's funny because, like for example, you and I would sit down and watch like if they just had a live stream of like people in a board meeting like at like Facebook or like Select Medical, like one of these companies, I would just watch just to see how they communicate with each other, the ideas that they come out, like how do you run it? Like people just want to see what other people do because it's interesting because you've never seen it. And so it's like kind of a mystery. And in today's age now, you can like get an actual behind the scenes. And so like that's what I'm most interested from this podcast is like really just more of like a look into how me and you chop it up when we're talking about stuff. And like, I mean, after this meeting, we have a meeting with our business partners that could also be a podcast where it's like, man, we discuss pretty interesting and unique ideas and like talk about stuff. And like, I think the balance is like, showing too much versus not enough, especially when you're a business owner. And so, I mean, my feeling on this would just be like we, capturing a lot of the conversations that we are already having, and it's a pretty low lift nowadays. Like you see like these shows that are like fairly minimal editing from my standpoint. Now they might have 8 hours of recorded video and then they have to edit it together, but it's like it's really fairly minimal comparatively to the broadcast or the budget of like imagine how much it costs to make like an HGTV show versus like this Perkins Builders show. And they've got more viewers. Like they have millions and millions of subscribers and they're selling gear off of it. They're selling like tool belts. So they have their own custom tool belt they make, and you see a lot of um, these like YouTubers. They make a product based on what they do. Like I watched
Right.
this woodworker guy, a carver, and he has like this specialized Damascus carving knife that like they sell out of them like crazy. And so it's just interesting to see like
How long until you think the studios either purchase these shows or catch on to this? Because it reminds me of like the beverage industry, right? Where it's like you got these specialty like energy drinks that start out, and then Coke buys them, or like Max, the candy, and then
Yep.
Hershey bought it. When is NBC gonna like purchase these shows? Because dude, who is watching any new sitcom that comes out, dude? I could not, dude. That is like painful to watch that stuff now.
Well, think about today's age um of like reality TV. Why did reality TV become so popular? It's because reality TV felt so much more authentic than these like staged scripted shows. Now the problem is like the I feel like networks got like their hands on all of this, all of these like reality TV, and then started like forcing scripted stuff into this to make it more interesting. Where it's
Yeah,
like, I don't think people inherently want more drama to make it more interesting necessarily. But I definitely think that, I mean, the smart networks will start to try to like pick up these things. And you're almost seeing like a reverse, I guess, where like, I don't know if they actually buy it, but like Netflix has put YouTubers on Netflix now. That there are shows on Netflix that started on YouTube and are now on, like Hot Ones is a great example. That was a show that started on YouTube. It was like completely his thing, and now it's on Netflix. Like I don't know the backstory to his deal of like what they paid him or if they bought a piece of it or whatever, but I think there's forward thinking companies like a Netflix that are going to do it. I think like NBC is going to do it? Probably not, because you know they're the incumbents and they think that like they want to keep their style, but like their audience is slowly aging out, right? Like and like quite frankly dying off. You know what I'm saying? Like so it's actually pretty interesting to think about that. And like it's it's why like in the short term it's really hard to overthrow an incumbent, like someone who's in the space. But if you take a long term look at everything, like almost no incumbents last. Like almost everybody who's been there, eventually they are like gone, you know.
yeah,
So
yeah, dude. I was driving to Covington yesterday, and I was like, I looked over at the Jamba Juice, and I was like, dude, that's actually pretty impressive. How many different restaurants in that area have gone out of business? That one's, I don't know if they're doing well, but like they've done well enough, dude. They've been there at least 20 years.
for sure, it's that like those are the games like for example like in the whiskey world. I got a bunch of whiskey behind me. You've got Buffalo Trace, which is like the oldest operating distillery I think in the US, and it's actually older than the US. And so I think there's like certain spaces where like if you have a really good product and you do it for a long time and you do it well, you could stick around. I mean, even like companies like Chick-fil-A have been around for quite a long time, but it's still like one of those things where like there are new people trying to come in and battle them. And that's where it's like if you're an incumbent and you're iterating on your product and you're like developing along with the times, you have like a crazy advantage, so hard to overthrow. But like that's what we're finding in the medical space is like there's a ton of these big incumbents, but they're not willing to do what we do, and they're not embracing like a new age of media. They're not embracing a new age of practice. And
Yeah.
so they are becoming easier to overthrow on a long-term horizon,
Yeah.
but you have to still be really good and like you have to crush it. Like we've been 6 years in the business now. Are we coming up on 7? No, we're coming up on 6 years. And so we have like, but we have to do this on a 10 or 15 or 25 year horizon. But I think you can actually overcome the incumbents in that case.
That's always the scary part, though, right? Is because realistically, if those incumbents were smart, they could just keep crushing it, right? Because they have the resources to do those things. But you also just get caught up in so many other things when you're that size that you kind of like your head's in the clouds. You can't really see like what's going on.
Yeah, and like you have so many layers of bureaucracy between everything there, and it's like we can make things happen really quickly, right? Like we could do whatever we want to do in as fast as we want to be, but like in these companies, there's so many layers of things that like imagine just the approval process for like a social media post in some of these companies. It's like it's going to be so crazy to get through all of that that like I don't even think it can be done, you know? So like we're fast because we're responsive. And I think that's what you have as like a young, small company is you have your agility, but you have to use it. Like we see a lot of companies that we talk to that are small, but they treat themselves like they're like some like massive company. And like we used to talk about this all the time where it was like, you have to do something and do it that would be scalable later on. But like that almost, if you just follow that rule, like where it's like, oh, don't do this unless you can do it at like 10x the size, you basically are almost getting rid of your competitive advantage. You know, it's like,
For sure.
why wouldn't I do a handwritten note for every single person who comes into my business or something like that? That seems like non-scalable when you're doing 300,000 visits a year, but like at the size you're at, maybe you can do it, and that's your competitive advantage. And so that's kind of like an interesting topic to me, where it's like,
Probably
yeah,
bad advice.
yeah. I mean, I think it probably is bad advice, and like honestly, I've given that advice, and I've thought, and like, because a lot of people have told me that advice, but I mean, that just brings to like anything we say on here. Like again, this is like you know, we were talking about like new names of the podcast when we came on. This is like over the counter advice for you guys. Like you can't just take this and apply it to anything or your business. Like you have to think about like I'm more and more when I absorb information, I'm like, how does this actually apply to where I'm at? And is this a smart strategy?
Well, what I would say with that advice, it does make sense in the macro of your business, right? Like if you're like, dude, I could make 300 bucks teaching these kids, and it's like, okay, cool, but you only have so many hours and they only want to learn from you. This model right here is not scalable, right? Because that's what I see a lot of people doing is like the model of their business isn't really scalable. And then you're like, dude, don't get in this trap where now you just sold all your hours for a small amount, but you really wanted to create this huge company type of thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean that's a good point to make, and also like side quests during your business. Like we've gone on plenty of side quests, and oftentimes now we have to say no to things. And like the number one thing I think about, like for example, we've had people that are like, "Hey, can we add this service into the business?" And it's like, "Hey, that's actually sounds like a great complementary service." The problem is there's only going to be one person fulfilling that service. So what happens if that person leaves, and then we have to now hire another person? We've had that happen where we've had a service inside of our business, great service. It was awesome uh, in theory, but then when that person leaves, it's like, I don't really want to hire another person to fulfill that. And so
Yep.
like, that's one of the things you think about.
Yeah.
Speaking of things that you wouldn't think that are going to scale. Have you ever heard of this company called Exotic Pop?
Exotic pop?
Yeah. Have you ever heard this? All
No.
right. I don't know if it'll mute you while you're looking this up, but but look up Exotic Pop if you can, maybe in a separate tab. Um, so I was so confused because their sign outside their building, like I saw one opened in Houston. It caught my eye, and it caught my eye because of their sign, and like they have a really wild interior. And the sign on the outside of the building says, "That's an awful lot of cough syrup." And I'm like, are these people like legalizing the sale of cough syrup? Like, what is going on here? So I look into this business.
Oh, this is they do the chips? Yeah.
They do all sorts of stuff, dude. So this is crazy. This business was started by this dude out of the trunk of his car. He was like a former felon. started this company where he's selling exotic and hard to find snacks, mostly sodas, like rare one-off Fanta sodas, or like he's capitalizing on nostalgia. It's like uh like he might find an energy drink from like the early 2000s that no longer exists and like bring it back somehow and recreate it, or like whatever he does to make it happen. He like formulates these like old things that like capitalize on nostalgia, or he'll like go to Asia and he'll source a bunch of like a popular snack there that you can't get in the United States and bring it here. And so this guy has scaled to 300 plus locations, and it's like he's just selling snacks and soda. It's like it's crazy to me. And they're pretty expensive. Like the sodas for like a small bottle, it's like $6 or $7. It could be, some of these things are like upwards of like $40 or $50 per soda, because it's basically like it's like hype beast stuff. You know, it's like
They're like brand deals, right? Like with
yeah,
these
and
rappers.
dude, and yeah, they have deals, they have sponsorship, they have like athletes, or like a lot of like
Mostly
music
rappers.
artists,
Like, yeah.
yeah, rappers who have like partnered and they made their own flavor and stuff. Dude, this guy's crazy. They said, I was reading the thing, the last known profit from this guy in 2021 was $6 million profit in a year off of this. And so like it's such an interesting thing to think about this, of like he scaled this to 300 plus locations. You would never, like, I would never think like a snack company, or like, especially like this type of snack company, would be able to scale. And I don't really know what the lesson is here, but it's like, it's interesting because he just found his niche. He capitalized off like nostalgia and also like rarity, right? Because it's
Yeah.
like a lot of this stuff, it's like once it's gone, it's gone. And it kind of reminds me, again, to go back to like, you know, I've got bourbon on my shelf. It's kind of like the bourbon stuff where you've got Buffalo Trace makes all this like stuff they call Buffalo Trace Antique Collection, BTAC. It's like very limited release stuff. And some of the bottles now, like secondary, are thousands and thousands of dollars. Like if you want to buy the whole BTAC line, which I think is like 5 or 6 different bottles, it might cost you $40,000 to get the whole thing, $35,000. So it's like, it's interesting though, because he's doing this off soda and there's nothing added. It's not actually syrup. I don't know why their sign, like their sign is very eye catchy though, because it says like that's an awful lot of cough syrup. And then they have like exotic pop, and they have a ton of LED lights, and the place looks crazy when you go inside.
Yeah.
But I thought it was just a pretty sick business.
Well, I think that's the lesson is brand matters, right? Like that. I, I doubt the chips are any better than any other chips, dude. You know, it's just like, or the pop. I don't even know if you drink the pop. And then two is, and this is what I'm going to tell a business owner later today is like, what is your thing? You know, I hate when people start these like food companies, or, you know, like I was at the farmer's market the other day, or like I run into different new things and I'm like, why would I think of you? Or like, why would I go to you versus everyone else? And if you don't know that, man, you're going to have a hard time.
Yeah.
And I don't know why you would even start if you didn't know that.
Well, I mean, it's like us in the beginning, man. We thought the 4 pillars of business were going to be important. Like we thought we were going to do fitness, we were going to do nutrition, physical therapy, and mindset. Like we had the 4 pillars, and we're like, hey, let's sell it all. And then we go to doctors and be like, yeah, we do everything, like head to toe. Like I literally remember myself sitting in a doctor's like meeting and going, we do everything head to toe, anything from like, you know, you're 5 years old and you're injured to 98 years old and this. It's like,
Well, we thought that was our thing, right? We thought our thing was that we do it all.
but
But
everyone does
really,
that. And everyone does everything. Like everyone
exactly.
thinks they do everything well. But
Exactly.
really what you have to realize is like again, this company is like their thing is, hey, we are gonna only sort, they're not selling Cheez-Its there. You know, they're not like, hey, we're actually gonna be a popcorn company too. They're like, we sell rare snacks that you can't
Yeah.
get anywhere else. And like, so people go there looking for unique experiences. And so like
Mhm.
what they're really selling is a unique like access thing, right? It's like it's kind of like the Jordan shoe community. It's like it's hard to get stuff that people want as a symbol, you know? And like of course that will apply down to snacks when you think about it. I just never thought that it would.
Yeah. But my I think the lesson for if you're a PT business owner is like you got to start to really nail down why you. over everyone else.
Yeah, and I think a lot of
Um,
people are afraid to niche down in a way where and by the way, I don't actually believe in like the riches or in the niches, I think you have to be a little versatile. Like you can't niche yourself down into like the most niche if you want a scalable practice. Again, like you said, you're doing something that like your advantage could be something that's non-scalable, but if your entire business model was non-scalable, like you have to think about like the total addressable market, like the TAM of like if I'm like, hey, I only work with like teenage ballerinas. It's like how many of those actually exist in your area? And if it's not that many, like that's not a good like business model. But you could say I work with youth athletes, and that's all I take. I don't, and you could really buckle down and say I don't take anyone over the age of 19 because I am a youth athlete specialist.
mhm.
You could actually build that reputation, and you like there's enough youth athletes in maybe in your given area that you could actually fulfill that
Yeah.
if done really well.
You gotta go
Now,
hard at that message. Yeah.
yeah, and now when you reduce down your total adjustable market, it definitely makes it more difficult and you have to be a lot better. But you're also thought of every time anyone thinks of like youth athlete, they go, oh, yeah, this place. And so, like, I've always thought about that in our business and doing like multiple niches within the business from different providers. Now, the problem is, again, you run into the problem of like, if that person leaves, do you have another person that can treat that stuff? The good thing about physical therapy is like, yes, we are very good at certain things. It's like if our ACL specialist leaves, everyone else can treat ACL, but we have the one person that everyone thinks of, but we're just going to make the next person that person, right? Like, so like it's an interesting topic as far as like niches go, but like I mean, like you said, it's got to be scalable too.
Well, the one of the 22 immutable laws of marketing is you can only own one word in people's minds. So everyone thinks you could do, oh, they'll know me for this, this, and that. It's like, but they're only going to think of you for one thing. So figure out what you want that to be, um, and go from there.
And my initial feeling is that you could own a different word in different people's minds, even like and then you could own one word as like a whole umbrella, because like we have certain, like I said, we have niche providers who I think like certain providers that we've connected with that niche provider, that's who they think of, even though as a whole our company is not thought of as this, right? Like this niche, like for example, like vestibular, like we have a couple PTs that do vestibular, and like there are B providers who like, oh, this is my vestibular guy, but as a company we are not the vestibular physical therapy company. And so then you're doing really well if you can do that, if you can like target certain providers so that they think about you as a certain niche, um, based on their expertise too, right? Like if you're working with a doctor who's like seeing a lot of postpartum women, like you want to be thought of as the postpartum PT. You don't want to be thought of as like, the weightlifter PT or whatever.
I think of it as a tree, right? Like there's the tree that people think of. I think everyone thinks of us as sports. And then when sports comes to mind, they're like, well, this person's athletic and they're a mom postpartum. Yeah, I'll just send them the sports guy. Fuck it.
Yeah.
You know? So I think it all stems down from the one main thing. And then you try to fit people into um certain topics.
Yeah, I think people will like connect your brand in their own mind the way that they see it, like you said, like vines, like,
Hmm.
but your job is really just to not make those connections for them because then they see them as inauthentic. When they make those connections themselves and they start to extrapolate out your specialty, um,
Yeah.
that's when you're really doing well.
And another thought on that is you want that word to be desirable, right? Because everyone want a great example was the lady who started Solid Core. She started that nonprofit run club for homeless people,
Yep.
and she called it like on your feet running crew or whatever. But initially, everyone who was involved wanted to call it like the homeless running crew, and she was like, "No one's gonna show up for that. No one wants to be a part of that. Like, no
Yeah.
one wants that label."
Yeah, like
So make
everybody
it,
wants to get back up on their feet. They have like an aspirational thing that they want to be a part of. Yeah.
yeah. So right, if we were like, um, you know, injured in pain physical therapy clinic. Like no one wants to wear that shirt or go to that place or like, you know, um,
Yeah.
non-athletic PT spot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. You want the word, yeah, definitely be aspirational and not describe the current condition. It should describe the future. the you don't want to be like in pain moms. You want to be like pain free moms.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
So
Do you have another topic you want to go on?
yeah, so that brings up the thought I had was, um, I went to the farmers market and I was just walking around like observing, and I was like, first of all, I think it would be probably a fun YouTube channel and a fun project. Imagine if we were just like we created a booth, some product, and just saw if we could like be the number one seller that day or something like that. And I was thinking like certain things that people do that are effective, and it goes back to words, right? Like I was walking by and this one sign said famous quesadillas, and I was
Mm.
like, shit, I gotta try that, dude. I don't know if they're actually famous, but they say
World's
they
best,
are.
world's best coffee.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
yeah.
Can't believe you have the world's best coffee.
But I bet people are like, oh, that's the famous quesadillas. Let me try those things out.
Yeah.
And I
You,
think
you
that
could get even more niche. You could be like TikTok famous quesadillas, and
you
people
could
like
do
would love
so
it.
many things like that, and then someone would probably post it on TikTok
Yeah, you
and
could be
make
like
it
the
famous.
the TikTok donuts, and people are
Yeah,
like, "Oh, the TikTok. Those the TikTok donuts. Oh yeah, I think I know what you're talking about." Like people like jump on that band, dude. And then the other thing is like creating a line is so big. I see people at so the funny thing that you mentioned farmers markets, the one here in Maple Valley was rated like the top 5 in the country for farmers markets, and it's insane. It's so good when you go there, and there'll be long lines. Like this salsa company, they sell salsa and chips. Their line is so long. And then I feel like people just join the line because they're like, oh, this must be good because all these people are in line. And I see that now a lot of times with this new donut shop. There's two battling kind of like bakery donut shops at this farmer's market. And this one like started creating some like they started to capitalize on rarity and like uniqueness and then like limited quality or quantity, sorry. So like it's
yeah,
like, hey, there's only 100 of this donut and it's like this really unique flavor this week. It's kind of like crumble cookies. And then all these people are standing in line because like, oh man, I hope I can get one of those 100. It's like,
yeah.
and then even if they're out, they're like getting the next thing. But
Hmm.
man, this donut shop, they all sell out by like halfway through. It's crazy. Their line is pumping. And I'm like, they've done something right. They have great branding, like the color is good, the logo and the stuff. And then it's just like the presentation is good. But then it's like the nightclub effect. You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah,
why nightclubs are trying to get guys like us to show up at like 8:30 for free drinks. They're like, you got to be in line at 8:30. It's like because they're like, it'll make us way more money if we give these dudes like one free drink inside the club, which costs us $2, to just have them stand in line for an hour and a half and waste their time out there just to make this place look popular. It's so crazy, man. Because you'll
yeah,
you'll go through this long line where you're like, wow, I waited so long, it must be packed in there. And you walk in, and you're like, wait, there's no one in here.
for sure.
It's
Well,
crazy.
that that scarcity brought me brought up a even better hack. I remember at the Yankees game, your sister-in-law was like,
Oh
she's like, they
yeah.
only have 99 burgers, and they had this 99 counter. And I was like, oh, they're at 97. We're never gonna get it. And then we walk back around and it's at 3 again. And I was like, they got more than 99 burgers. They're just but
Well,
she was dead set on like, we gotta run here, we gotta get in line.
which
That would
is
be a good trick though. I bet a lot of people are like, we gotta get in line.
the hard part is like I now know the trick of nightclubs because I figured it out. Now I don't know how many people are like retrospectively going back and looking at how they got like duped. But in that case, like you also figured that trick out, so you're not going to fall for it again. So like I'm all about finding a trick that's not a trick. It can't be like a one-time trick. It's got to be something that like is repeatable. Otherwise, you're in the launch method, and that's just so hard. Like every time you're trying to come up with a new trick to get people to get your product, like it needs to be like something that's repeatable that people will fall like quote unquote fall for multiple times, but it's because it's not a trick. You know what I'm saying? So like that 99 burgers, like it'd be sweet if it was like, hey, there's 99 bacon burgers. Oh, and then next one is gonna be like there's 99 Western burgers, and then it's like, hey, there's 99 like pineapple burgers, like whatever it is, like maybe it's a unique burger each time. And it's like, hey, there's only 99 of each of these, and we only sell them one at a time.
Yeah.
That
Well,
would actually make it pretty easy on the cooks too, because then they're like, they're not making anything new. They're just making one style of something 99 times, and they do the next one. They do the next one.
to be fair, I figured it out. She had been there multiple times and still believed it. So not everyone figures that out.
What'd she say when you told her that, hey, the clock reset?
I pointed it out. She's like, oh, she
Like,
still wanted to get in line. Like everyone still wanted one.
Yeah, they got me there. That's a good one. That's so funny.
But that, like you were talking about YouTube channels, I think that would be pretty fun. Are there any like follow me for me try to crush it at my farmer's market booth?
I don't think so, but dude, I've thought so much about YouTube channels because I really wish I could create one that's like, because I just like, I love YouTube so much. Like for myself, I wish I could create something that was fun and entertaining for people. The problem is like it feels like such a low bar, but then like comes the editing, and the editing is always the toughest thing, which is why we hired an editor for our videos for our company. Is because like we're guilty of this. We love filming, we hate editing, and we had so much backlog content that was just like, I mean, I think like,
I don't even like sending him the videos. I'm like, oh, I gotta go sift through all these, dude. Like I hate every part of that.
I know. That's also a good idea in like in business to think about like where are your friction points of things you don't like, and then like if you paid someone to do it, would it reduce the friction enough where you like it would give you an outsized result? And like for this is our example here is, yes, we'll film. We need to probably find a solution where the uploading is easier so that becomes less friction based point, or even assign someone inside of our business like, hey, here's all the videos we shot. Your job is now to put these into this folder. And then it goes through this conveyor belt. So you got to figure out like where on the conveyor belt of your business you like to operate and where you don't, and where your job ends and someone else's picks up, and then figure out a way to like track that it does it. So like for our business in physical therapy, it's like we know exactly where a customer enters our conveyor belt. We know where each person is interacting with that customer along their journey. And we know like what our role is and what everyone else's role is. And that's such an important delineation to make in a business, is to like understand what you enjoy in your business and what you don't. And then your goal, even if you can't immediately replace it, like my goal is always like, how can I replace this task that I don't like?
Yeah.
Because that'll drag people down in business, is doing a bunch of stuff that you don't enjoy to do.
100%. And the other thing I was thinking about was I think people they need to get their expectations correct for certain tasks that they're doing in business. Like again, I'm going to talk to this other company about marketing and stuff like that. But I already know the response is like everyone gets so hyped up on like, all right, let's do this one event and that's going to crush it for us. But like you and I know, it's like you got to do 100 of those and not expect anything. You just have to be doing all these things, and then over time, like they'll pay off. You'll start to get brand awareness and stuff like that. But you can't expect like you're going to go to this gym and like that's going to fill your book, or you're going to go to the obliteride and like now you don't need to market anymore. It's like these are just things you have to do to get anywhere. But you have to understand and go in with the idea that like I'm just here checking a box. I'm not here to like save my business.
Well, it's interesting because it's like anything in life, it's volume and consistency, because you're just really staying top of mind. It feels like every time we do an event, we're top of mind, and then quickly that starts to fade because the next guy is going to do something that puts them top of mind. It's same with like relationships with physicians. It's just a revolving door. Like you have to stay on their desk, right? Like you gotta be the one at the top of their mind when they're thinking of this thing. Because if they've met with someone else that does the same thing that you do, they might replace you. And we've replaced plenty of people as like key providers for these resources. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting thing. Because like everyone wants that magic bullet again, but it's like the 100 golden BBs is really the strategy here.
100%.
Yeah,
100%. Do you have another topic?
I do.
All right.
Have you ever heard of Epic? You aren't a physical therapist, so you probably don't even know what Epic is.
Epic, the like record
Yeah,
company?
the EMR system.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is a crazy story. So it's interesting because I was listening to an episode of Acquired on this. So if you want to deep dive in Epic, you can go listen to the Acquired podcast. But it's really crazy. And I thought about it in the context of like our EMR, and we did a switch recently from one EMR to another EMR. And for a while, our EMR was kind of doing what this company does. And I was talking to someone like, I think our EMR now is kind of like maybe getting off track. I don't know. I get a little bit worried. I guess like we could call them out, like, because it doesn't really matter. But like we were on WebPT, and my biggest complaint with WebPT was they had a lot of companies they had acquired and put on top of their company, on top of their base code. And I never really thought about how programming coding worked, but like it makes sense that like if one programmer wrote a set of code for a program to work a certain way, it's very hard to take another program that's written completely different and make it match up to the original program and interact really well. And so, for example, one of our biggest complaints with WebPT was that billing and the EMR only communicated one way, and they could not communicate back and forth. And our new EMR prompt does that really well because the billing is built in to the actual EMR itself. And so billing and the EMR communicate. Now it makes sense now that I've learned a little bit more about programming that like WebPT, it's very hard to get two programs to seamlessly communicate back and forth without losing data. And we had that problem with prompts or with WebPT sometimes where it would actually lose like billing data. It was like, oh, there are a bunch of claims that just didn't go through. And that's a huge problem when you're trying to run a company that's based on cash flow, and you're like not aware when claims like don't go from the EMR when you sign the note to the billing side. And so Prompt solved a lot of that. Epic is really interesting because they're known for what's called like the Epic walled garden. And so like they were founded in 1979 by this lady, Judy Faulkner. And today, 35% of acute hospitals use Epic. So, dude, imagine the amount of providers. And one of the big game changers for them was that they won the contract back in the day for Kaiser Permanente. And so they got all of the Kaiser hospitals. Like, imagine the cost per provider and then like the scale of that. And so, like, you're probably familiar with Epic in that, like, if you ever used MyChart, have you used MyChart before?
Yeah, I think so.
It's like that program where you could see your own health records and all that stuff and schedule appointments. That's them. They do MyChart. So like they're one of the first ones to have like online scheduling for like outpatient procedures through hospitals, and also like access your own medical records so you didn't have to like transfer all your medical records. But this company is really interesting in the fact that they've never acquired another healthcare company. They always build whatever they're going to use. So for example, if they're like, hey, by the way, like I know AI is a big thing. Here's some things you could go do in the meantime, but right now we're building our own AI thing. So they would never buy an AI company and then plug it into their own thing. They write all the code from scratch so that it interacts perfectly with the base code. And so that's why hospitals buy this system, is because it has almost no problems because it's all integrated into one code, and you're not just patching a bunch of things together. Like in our example of WebPT, it was like they had bought a ton of different companies that did different stuff. They tried to patch it together, and it just seemed like everything was always breaking. Like the reach didn't ever work with this or this. It was like that was our biggest complaint. So Epic, by not ever acquiring another business, has basically like solved that problem. But they're a weird company in general. If you look up what their headquarters looks like, it's like in rural, I want to say it's Michigan, and they have like something called the farm campus, and they have like this big building that looks like a barn, but it's like a massive building that holds like a ton of offices. And they also designed some of it to look like Harry Potter, like Hogwarts. And like they have like all these weird, really weird oddities, but their company culture seems really, really cool. You should actually check out the Acquired podcast, Mitch, on this company. It's really fascinating. But the crazy thing is, Judy Faulkner still owns 100% of the company, and the revenue is in the billions. So this lady, they say in this podcast, she might be the most successful female entrepreneur of all time that really no one actually knows about, because her business has stayed private and she likes it that way. They don't do, check this out. They don't even have a sales team.
They don't need it.
I know, which is crazy. So they're an EMR company who's a product company who doesn't have a sales team. It just sells itself because these big hospitals are like, I have to get in now, because they know that this is the best, most secure system. And the other benefit of having a walled garden like that is when you don't have a bunch of people, apparently when you don't have a bunch of people plugging in via like API keys and like you're not patching the other code, it's way more secure because you control the security perimeter of like things that are able to access the information from within. And so you're not poking holes in the shield of the barrier. So like from a HIPAA standpoint, like a legality of like protecting private information, this system is really good because it's very secure. And so hospitals love it. Now, do the providers love it? Apparently not. Like
I've heard not. Yeah.
yeah, there's some complaints about it, but like
It's just old school.
yeah, and they very much view their customer as the like hospital administrative staff and not the actual end user, which for better or for worse, like that's the one thing I really like about Prompt is that they really view their end user as also their customer. And so like they're trying to make it extremely user friendly for the PTs, and they're incorporating a lot of things in to make lives easier. But yeah, it's a pretty interesting story of like, man, this company made billions of dollars. And when I think about Prompt, I'm like, man, you guys should just follow this structure. Like they've acquired three companies recently, which is cool, right? Like I like the three that they acquired. Obviously, like Prediction Health is like an awesome tool for us. But at the same time, I'm like, it's interesting because you start to run into the problem that WebPT has, where you're trying to like patch a bunch of stuff together. Because what Epic does too, every time they come out with a new product, it's just free. It's just wrapped up in the total cost of what the EMR costs. And I think like
I would assume Epic went a lot slower though. If they're building every little thing, they probably didn't go this fast.
yeah, and I don't know. Yeah, it's like, I mean, obviously 1979, that's been a long time. 35% of acute hospitals in the US, that's a big number because there's a lot of hospitals and a lot of providers. But like this is one of those long game things where it's like,
for sure,
WebPT moved really fast, and now look, it's like,
well, that's what I'm saying.
I'm not in the know in this situation, but it sounds like from what we've known, a lot of people mass exodus from this company because they went so fast that everything started to break. And so like they know like I think Epic just knows a sustainable pace, and they're like, hey, it might take us 6 months to build this product, but in the end, it's going to be way better for our long-term users. And apparently, Epic, this is crazy. Since 1979, they've never lost a customer. They had one company leave that left for 6 months and came back.
Damn.
Which is crazy. So like their churn is 0. Which I mean, that kind of number is what makes you a multi-billion-dollar company in the healthcare space.
Yeah. And that allows you to do all these things. It just seems like the game in software now is like build as fast as possible and exit.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's what Prompt's trying to do, but you kind of get the writing on the wall if you're acquire, build up, create value, create valuation, and get out, dude.
Well, and that's the funny thing about Epic. They've already said that they will never sell. She's got it written into her will and her like legally binding that this company just will stay private and it won't sell. So they built this for the long game. And obviously, I mean, imagine what her dividend is per year on this. You know, it's like, it's got to be crazy. So I don't know, like that. And that's why it's interesting because I never thought about it like this. But I mean, we've aligned ourselves with some companies in software where it was like that was their goal. They're like building, trying to sell. I don't necessarily want to align myself with products like that aren't built for the long game, because as soon as they sell, they go downhill because they get strapped into something else. It's like, you know, everything is like this. And it just makes you realize why bigger companies and corporations, and this is one of the scalable things that I've started to think about versus what I didn't think about this ever before. I always wondered why like a big company takes so long to vet software and like make the decision, is because they're like, I don't want to incur the cost of switching again in whatever. Like for example, our HEP platform went under, and it's like now it's like we incur the cost, both like taxing our employees to having to switch the system and not liking it, and then also us putting resources into filming these videos or changing the location where they're housed and like all of this stuff. It's a cost, right? And so like you don't want to align yourself with a company who's like going to go under or going to sell and change, and now they're part of something else. Like
Yeah, imagine if our EMR went under, dude. That'd be
I mean,
awful.
imagine the cost to switch again, right? There's actually a cash like equivalent to that, like the amount of time and effort and money that we have to pay employees to switch systems. That's tough. And so I think you just have to be really careful when switching. And I always wondered why people were so careful. And we were careful because we just didn't want to do the work. We like took a lot of, I don't think we're necessarily careful in looking into the company. We were just like, oh man, that sounds like a lot of work. Let's just put this off. So yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
I got one more fun one. Do you have one? I think we have time for one more.
Yeah, go ahead.
I got one more fun one. Have you ever heard of the Velvet Sundown?
No.
Okay. The Velvet Sundown. This is crazy. And I'll link this back to business. This is a completely AI created band on Spotify. The characters were created via AI. Like they created backstories for these folks. They have images. Like it's crazy. I was actually just like, as you were logging into this podcast, I was listening to their music. It's crazy. They have 1.1 million monthly listeners on this AI band. The music, you'll have to listen to it, but it's like, it's not your style of music, but it's actually pretty good. Like I listened to a few songs and I was like, oh wow, this is actually kind of crazy.
Interesting.
They released 2 albums in a month. So in June they released 2 full albums, and they have a third coming this month. And they're like dropping singles, and like it's very interesting, because what I thought about with this is, if this kind of thing is accepted, where like people are accepting an AI band and listening to their music and supporting the product, imagine what else is possible with AI people. It is very feasible to me that you could create a full AI front desk personality that people will accept as a real person, if they are willing to accept a musician as an AI person, you know?
Yeah.
So like, this makes me think like this is an interesting test, and I think they're doing it in something like music, and this is just going to get recreated in all scenarios. Like, I mean, honestly, I think every customer service person in the future is just going to be an AI created personality, and they're going to give them different personalities. One person might be a little edgy and a little weird. One person might be just like overly nice. And I think the companies will be able to like decide what that personality is based on their brand, or even better yet, it's like the AI will do an audit of your business and say, hey, this is the best personality for your brand, and this is what we should do. And it will know everything about your company instantly. It'll read all of your documents and all of your training instantly, and it'll cost a fraction of the price. Like, as soon as I heard this music, that's what I thought of. And I was just thinking, man, this is interesting, because I'm very, very, very interested to see what other AI personalities get created that are just going to be generally accepted very quickly.
Well, I don't know if I believe in it, but you know, Gary Vee's always like, they're going to be all the influencers are going to be AI, and I'm like, I mean, uh, I think music, because you talk to so many people, I'm like, who do you like? And they're like, I don't know, I just listen, and they don't know any of the artist names, especially in like house music and like DJ stuff. Is like you don't really know any of them, so I could see that, but like influencers or like stuff like that, I'd be curious. I guess
Most
you
people
know,
don't. Most people don't know the person's real name anyway. They know them by their influencer name,
or
and
like the Geico Gecko, right? Is like
yep.
that's basically it,
Well, and
you know.
here's the thing too. It's
Or does it? Are you trying to fool people that it is real, or do you just make it known that like
it's
this
like an
is a
AI mascot, where it's like, hey, here's our AI customer. And I mean, I hate to say it, but like most of these online personalities, like a Logan Paul or a Jake Paul, it's fabricated, right? It's not the
right,
real person anyway.
right,
And I think as more people figure out that the person that they like and follow is not actually the real person, like if you see enough behind the scenes, then I think AI becomes more acceptable because everything's fabricated anyway. It's just an interesting take on it.
but
I
is the draw behind them and artists that you could potentially like run into them, and like that's what they say, like brand builders, like to build your brand is like go pop out. You got to go be here. You got to go tour, because you need to give people this idea that they could be around you, and that's how you kind of build your fame.
well,
Does
what if,
that take into account? I don't know.
well, I mean, think about the metaverse. What if it's like now you have more opportunities to run into this star because that person could be everywhere all the time versus like in person. Like I'm never gonna run into Johnny Depp in LA walking around Hollywood. Like the chances of that are near zero.
You never know, dude.
Yeah, it could happen, but I'm saying like you could fabricate a lot more of those interactions with an AI personality in the metaverse or like
Yeah,
even through like
dude, they popped up in my Fortnite game.
exactly. And it's like even imagine like an AI streamer like Ninja, like that becomes super popular. Like, oh, I had the AI thing in my game lobby and I played against it, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's much more scalable. I don't know. It's really interesting because 1 million monthly listeners is a very strong signal.
How many know that they're AI, I wonder? Or if they're just like, this sounds good.
I would hope that a lot of them are like coming there based on the story that they've seen in the news about this AI band that was created. But I would imagine that there are some people on the like new music Friday
I
that
think
are
it would be I think it would be cool to catfish, like make people think it's a real band. Like, have you seen them tour? Like people like, yeah, I think I did. I think they opened for my friend or something, you know. And then they're like, no, actually, they're not even fucking real.
well, it's also interesting because like from this you could be um like music created for vlogs and stuff or like backgrounds in movies like no one's ever going to use real music anymore because you could
I'm not
create it
paying your
and
ass.
yeah
Yeah,
because then you have to pay the royalty every time it plays forever in perpetuity. So I think weird old things like that become much smaller and who knows, there's only a matter of time. Like you could create South Park all AI. Those are already cartoon characters that are made up. And then there's going to be probably a blend of like, oh, this show was created where there was humans and AI characters. And then eventually it's going to be like, hey, there's AI characters and robots. Who knows what people will accept if it's like, oh, that person looks like a human, but they're AI. I don't like that. But they look like a robot and they're AI, so I'm fine with it. Like I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
know where that line will be drawn, but most certainly there will be cartoons created. There will be like kids shows. There will be full kids character. I mean, if you think about what a kid's like Mickey Mouse is essentially AI. It's
Right.
just using a human's mind to create the content, and now you're just using a computer to create the content. So
Well, I
to
know there's
me,
a
to me, it's no different.
yeah. I guess the question is, do people know it is AI or not? Right? Because like, there's a lot of I guarantee there's a lot of like IG models that are completely fake.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
And
There's
people and
like,
they have 1 million followers,
Oh yeah.
imagine if you created that account and you're just posting these images and you start running ads or whatever, or I
Well,
don't know.
that's the question is like, where do you draw the line in ethical stuff where it's like, if it's a deep fake, which to me, a deep fake is like, it's fake, but no one's saying that it's fake versus like, if you come out and say, hey, this is our AI person,
Yeah, yeah.
hey, this is an AI
Mascot.
show. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But sweet. I think that was a good first pod back.
Yeah, I have fun.
Yeah. We'll catch you next week. We're doing this weekly now.
Let's go.
Peace.